Okay.
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
I
Well,
think we're good now.
Perfect. Yeah, I see the notification that we're on YouTube.
Yes.
So I'm going to share my screen. Oh, it says I can't share my screen.
Okay, let me make you okay. Okay.
Let's try again. Perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect. Okay, and then I am going to, this never works the first time I do it. Can you see?
Yes, I can.
Perfect.
Perfectly.
All right, so I just wanted to give you some really practical, there's some philosophical in here, but there's a lot of practical things in this particular talk. This is 6 hacks, things that you can actually put into place this weekend that can make a big difference in your homeschool next week if you're started homeschooling at this point. I don't know if you guys are in summer or winter or where you guys are at, but whenever you go back into your homeschool, whether that's next week or in the next 3 or 4 weeks, implementing 1 or 2 of these things can make a huge difference. So just to show you us, this is us right here. My oldest is 15 this year, and she is a sophomore. It's actually the girl there in the picture. Everybody always thinks her brother is older than she is. And we've homeschooled ever since the very beginning. And I know we look like the perfect homeschool family here, but most days in our house, it really looks more like this. Everybody's just kind of upside down and a little bit crazy. But I have a few tricks that I've picked up along the way. And honestly, as homeschool moms, we have so many concerns that are running through our heads as homeschool moms and homeschool dads. And we tend to get kind of wrapped up into knots about the darndest things. We worry about like, what method should I be using in my homeschool? Or which curriculum is going to make my life easiest? Or maybe even worst of all, we get caught up in peer pressure. How do my kids compare to other kids their age? You know, are they able to do the same things as the kids who are going to school? But the only thing that really matters are the children in front of you. Are you doing the right thing for them? And then how do you know that you're doing what is best for your family? And I contend that in order to know that you're doing what is best for your homeschool family, you need a homeschool vision statement. And I'm going to tell you exactly what that is. A vision statement is a statement of intent. These are the things that are important to you and your family in your homeschool. Now, this is not like what you want your kids to do or where you want to be in 10 years, because we're all human, and it's really hard to predict how our lives are going to turn out, right? You're only responsible for so far. But what a vision statement is it's a statement of the atmosphere in your homeschool. What does your homeschool feel like? What are the things that you do on a day-to-day basis? And how do you want that to feel for your family? So I love this quote. It's by a lady named Rosabeth Moss Cantor. And she says, a vision is not just a picture of what could be. It's an appeal to our better selves. It's a call to be something more. So as you're creating a vision for your homeschool, you're putting things down that call you to be something more than what you are. And it calls you to be something more for your children. Okay? So homeschooling without a vision is kind of like wandering around in the dark with your hands tied behind your back and then being surprised when you stub your toe against something. And we as humans, like homeschooling is not easy. I know I'm not telling anybody something that they don't know. It's not easy. We've just gone through the first 2 weeks of school, and I have been absolutely exhausted at the end of the day. And what happens when we come against things that are not easy is a lot of times we start darting off in other directions. And the great thing about a homeschool vision is that it stops us from darting off into other directions so much. It keeps us grounded. So when we come up against something hard, we don't do something like throw out everything we're doing and start doing something else, right? We can persevere. We can push through. We don't feel despair because we're not doing everything that the family down the street is doing. We don't think about putting our kids back in school because we can ground ourselves in this vision that we have for what the days of our homeschool are going to look like. If you know your why, like why am I homeschooling, and you can tell it to other people, then you're better equipped to face those tough times, those times when it's hard. And answer your critics, even the critic who lives inside of you, because a lot of times we are our own worst critic when it comes to homeschooling. So how do you create a vision for your homeschool? Well, one of the methods that we teach in our planning course is to use something that we call an outlook inventory. So what you're going to do is you're going to imagine your children 20 years down the road, and they're thinking back on their homeschool years. And think about 4 questions. What do you want them to say about their homeschool experience? What are the skills that they have and the things that they love and desire as an adult? Things like, do they love reading? You know, do they have skills like household skills around the house? One of the things for me, it's really important that my kids are able to do things around the home. What do you want them to remember you for as a homeschooling mom or dad? You know, mom was always reading to us, or dad was always teaching us in through stories or something like that. And then how do you want them to feel about having been homeschooled? You know, what kind of experiences do you want them to remember? And then once you've given some thought to these 4 questions and you've written down your answers, then start thinking about, what do we need to do in our home in the day-to-day to make sure that our children have the kind of experience we want them to have? What do you need to do in your home to make sure that your child walks away with this perspective of homeschooling? Let me give you a few examples of what these vision statements might look like. So here's one from our vision statement.
Don't wait.
It says, in our
No need. The short knicker, you can now bring that one and leave it there.
We understand that God is a wonderful creator. We strive to form a personal relationship with him through prayer, mass attendance, and religious education. We can see him in everything that is true, good, and beautiful around us, and we seek out those things often to remind us that never. So that's one of the statements that's in my vision that helps ground me in our homeschool. Here's another. In our homeschool, we refuse to be dictated by man-made timelines, and we allow each student to work to his or her own sense without being rushed or pushed by artificial constraints. So that's another one right there. That's a reminder for me to make sure that I am not pushing my children just to finish a curriculum and not really learn something. And then here's my last example. In our homeschool, we work hard to mastery. Some subjects need to be learned well. We will consistently practice skills such as reading, writing, and mathematics, even if working those skill muscles are not our favorite tasks. So once again, that's a great reminder for me, is when kids are pushing back, They're crying over math. If this is important, we need to keep going. I don't need to give up. So if you write a series of statements like this becomes your homeschool vision. And you can write as many of these statements as you need. I would not really do more than about 7 to 10 because you don't want them to be too detailed. But this is kind of the big idea of what you want your homeschool to be like. Discuss this with your spouse. Discuss this with your older children. There's actually another way that you can do this. You can do this by making a vision board. This one was made by my friend Amy Milsick at Rock Your Homeschool. She did this with her kids. And they took pictures from magazines. You could draw pictures as well. And just come up with what are the things that are important to you in your homeschool? What are the things that you want to focus on? And you can see some of the things that she and her children came up with here that were important to them in their homeschool. So what do you do with your vision statement? Well, first of all, you use it to help you make curriculum choices. If you're going to choose to use the new curriculum, does it line up with your vision statement? You're going to use it to be confident in explaining your decision to homeschool. You're going to use it when you create your homeschool plan to make sure that you're doing the things that are actually important to you. It's going to help you decide which subjects to do next year, and then how to spend your extracurricular time and even your monetary resources. You know, if something's not important to us, why are we spending money on it? So there's no right or wrong answers here, but having your vision to ground you will help you to be true to what's important to you in your homeschool. I love this quote. It's by Kenichi Ome, and it says, rowing harder doesn't help if the boat is headed in the wrong direction. Homeschool parents row really, really hard every single day. And what's sad is when they don't end up where they want to be because they've been rowing to the wrong place. Okay. My next tip, and this goes great with the theme of relaxed homeschooling. It's not going to seem like it at first, but I promise it does. These are procedure lists. Procedure lists are the autopilot for your homeschool. Now, I like using open and go curriculum as much as possible. My favorite programs are the ones that I open. They tell me exactly what to do next, and I don't even have to think about it. These kinds of programs don't need a procedure list, but sometimes I want to use a resource that's really great, but it's not very friendly. It doesn't tell me what to do next. So maybe it has too many moving parts, like it's a history curriculum that has an overwhelming number of options, or maybe it's just a book and there's no guide at all, or a collection of books. Something like the Thornton Burgess Bird Book, or a book of poetry, or a book of literature. So when I have a resource like that, what I do is I make a procedure list. And all a procedure list is a very simple tool. It tells me exactly what to do next in order to teach any subject or resource. And I make these lists myself. I sit down and I do it in the summer. And I put on there the things that I want my children to practice, to do, or to study. And so this eliminates the need for me to think when I sit down to start my school day, what are we going to do today? When it's time to do history, I just pull out my list and I do the next thing on the list for us to do history. So let me show you an example. Okay, so if I were going to do a bird study with my kids, I would choose a number of different resources to use. I might use like an app on my phone that had like pictures of birds and bird sounds on it. We've done that before. I might get the Dover Bird Coloring Book. We would probably read from the Thornton Burgess Bird Book. We might have a nature journal or be keeping a bird record. I actually have a little, right outside my window here, I have a bird feeder. And so we might be looking at the birds out at the bird feeder. But what are we going to do when it comes time for us to sit down in our homeschool week and do our bird study? Well, this is what we're going to do. We're going to write down the name of the bird that we're studying on our whiteboard. We're going to look up the bird on our app, and we're going to look at some photos, and we're going to listen to the songs of that bird. And then we're going to color that bird in our coloring book, or we might use a field guide to draw that bird in our nature notebook. We're going to copy the bird name as copy work. And then I'm going to have my older kids write 2 or 3 facts about the bird in their nature notebook or in the margins. And then we're going to read our current chapter from the bird book, and I'm going to have my kids narrate. And then we're going to update our bird record. We're going to look at our bird feeder. Are there any birds that we've seen that we need to write down? So that's what we're going to do every time we study. Every time we study a new bird. Okay, so I've written all this down. When it comes time to do bird study, I don't have to think, what are we supposed to do next? I just pull this list out and start working on it. And the beauty of creating these own lists is that in the heat of the moment, when the dog is barking, the kids are yelling, the sink is overflowing with dishes, my husband is like walking through wanting to know where his shoes are, something like that. I don't have to think about what I'm supposed to be doing next. I just pull out my list and I do it. And it has made the biggest difference in our consistency when I know exactly what it is I'm going to do next. And the fun thing about these, when you're thinking about relaxed homeschooling, you don't see a curriculum in this example. There's no curriculum here at all. I've just gathered a few resources and I've got my list made, but when we sit down to do it, it's lovely and it's relaxing. And there's no worksheets. We're just enjoying our time together and having a good time. But I know exactly what I'm going to do next. Okay, so how do you make a procedure list? Well, you gather all your resources. And then the next important thing, number 2, is really important. Think very carefully about your goals for that subject before you write a procedure list. So a few years ago, when my kids were younger, we did a study of all the states in the United States. And I didn't want my kids to be able to list out like all the exports and everything you could find there and just, like the square miles or anything crazy like that. I wanted my kids to know how to find that state on a map, what the capital of that state was, and then to remember one interesting thing about that state. And so when I made my procedures, I didn't add a bunch of stuff that was busy work. I just focused on those 3 things. So make sure that you think very carefully about what your goals are. And then you list out your procedures. You may have to put them in order, change them around a little bit. When you get it to where you want it to be, finalize your list and keep it handy. And then prepare any materials. If you're going to be doing notebooking pages, anything you have to print off from a printer, go ahead and do it. Get those things ready to go. So a few different ideas for you for procedure lists. If you're doing some kind of map drawing, this is something we've done in our homeschool before where we've tried to draw maps. Write out a procedure for that. What does it look like when the kids do that? Music appreciation, picture study, a state or a country study. If you have little kids, especially, you're looking for a fun science to do with like 1st and 2nd graders. They love animals and plants. Make your own animal study with some good books and don't worry about buying a science curriculum. Or even a procedure for what does it look like when we do free writing in our homeschool. So the possibilities for this are endless. You can make them for everything, but the end result is a more peaceful mom because you're going to know exactly what it is that you're going to sit down and do next. I love this. So I just open my binder, look at my list, and work our way down. Makes life easy. Okay. So this poor little night. Does anybody ever feel this way? I mean, I think this is the story of my life, right? I've got my to-do list all ready to go. And then all of a sudden, here comes the dragon. He rears his ugly head and something comes up to get us off schedule. And so this is why it's important to have a schedule that can flex with any crisis or changes that come up in your homeschool day. So I used to make schedules that look like this. Here was our week, and I would say every day we're going to do math, and every day we're going to do language arts, and every day we're going to do handwriting, and we're going to do history on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, and we're going to do science on Tuesday and Thursday, and we have a few other little things down here, but this is what would happen. For some reason or other, there would be one day of the week that would always take a hit. Like we would not, like every week, something would mess us up on Thursday and we would never get to science. So in November, I would look around and I would be on lesson 14 or 15 in history, and I would be on lesson 4 in science, and I would be completely behind. This was very stress inducing to me. So I started using a loop schedule. I love this. This is a game changer for your homeschool. There's not enough flexibility in the do this thing on this day schedule because life just gets so busy. Life happens. And so the loop schedule helps me get more done and feel less stress in my homeschool. So a loop schedule is very simply a list of subjects that you might want to do in your homeschool. And what I tell people is when you're making your loop, think about if I have a perfect week and I can get everything done in a week, what would I have accomplished? And I list all those things out. Then what you do, here's a sample. So let's say science, history, Shakespeare, art, geography, and music appreciation. This is all the stuff I would want to get done. You have a time in your day that's called loop time. And this is the time that you're going to work on the subjects that are in this schedule. And if you have really young kids, your loop time is going to be short, maybe only 30 or 45 minutes. If you have older kids, your loop time could be much longer. Maybe it's an hour or even 2 hours. But what you're going to do is you're going to start at the top of this list and you're going to do a lesson in science, a lesson in history, a lesson in Shakespeare. And then if you're out of time, you close your books and you're done for the day. The next day when you come back and it's loop time again, you pick up where you left off. So you do a lesson in art and then a lesson in geography. And maybe that's as far as you get that day because art took a long time. So you close your book. The next day you open up, you do your music appreciation lesson. And then when you get to the bottom of the list, you loop back up to the top and you start with science again. So what happens if you have a day that you don't do school? Well, it's okay. But the next day you come back, you open your books again and you pick up where you left off. So you're never behind. You're never going to be on lesson 14 in history and lesson 4 in science. Everything is going to be getting done equally. Okay, so let's talk about some really fun variations on loop scheduling. This is like one of my favorite things. Before I do this, I want to give you a little bonus tidbit. I really want you to think about the difference between 2 different kinds of subjects in your homeschool. One kind of subjects are skill area subjects. These subjects are things like math, writing, learning to read. These are the foundational subjects that your children need to learn all the other subjects. And they need small incremental steps that build on each other. And you have to practice them often until they know how to do it. Content area subjects, on the other hand, are subjects like social studies or history, science, literature, things like that, all the fun extra subjects. Those subjects, you don't have to do those every day. And the younger your children are, the more important it is that you focus on those skill-based subjects and those content area subjects are really just kind of icing on the cake. They're fun. You don't want to drop them. They're important, but you can get so much more flexibility because you don't have to do them every single day. So if there is a new baby in the house and you don't do science for a whole semester, it's okay, especially if your oldest child is only in 3rd grade. Okay, so it's very important to kind of know the difference. What you're going to notice about my loop schedule is that these are content area subjects on this loop schedule. The skill-based subjects are not on this particular schedule. So I think that's an important distinction right here. But you can use them with some skill-based subjects. Let me show you this. So language arts is just kind of a catch-all for a bunch of different subjects. Things like some people do grammar, vocabulary, writing, editing, like learning where the periods go and where the commas go, and spelling. Those are the kinds of subjects that go into language arts. So you can make a loop for that, especially if your kids are overwhelmed, if you're trying to do all of these every day. Instead say, you know, I've got a 6th grader. We're going to do language arts every day for about 50 minutes to an hour. And we're going to work on one lesson from each one of these until our time is up. And then the next day we'd come back, we're going to pick up where we left off. Now, what if that 6th grader is a really horrible speller and they can't spell? And you're like, this is great, but I don't really want them to be doing all of these things equally. Well, then what you can do is you can change up your loop. You can change the frequency in your loop. So if you look at this one, they're going to do spelling 3 times for every 1 time that they do vocabulary. And they're going to be doing grammar 2 times for every 1 time that they do editing. So you can change the frequency here to build the kind of schedule that you want. Okay, I love loops. So if you want to try looping, we have a loop schedule form in our free homeschool planner that you can get from freehomeschoolplanner.com. And so all of these you can download. There's a bunch of different forms in here, and one of them is the loop form. And there's also a vision form in there as well. Okay, can you see my little video? Does your house ever feel like this? Like you're herding cats? My house feels like this. Yes, okay, good. Mine feels like this all the time. All right, so trying to get our homeschool day started can be a bit of a challenge. And there are a number of barriers that go with starting your day well. It might be slow moving kids. Sometimes at my house, it's a slow moving mom. Haven't had enough coffee, haven't been up long enough. Distractions are a big thing. Distractions for mom and distractions for kids. And play, even though it's a good thing, we love it when our kids play, but they can get really involved in some games and not want to stop to come out and start doing their homeschool stuff. And so when you have these barriers in your home, what may happen is what used to happen in my house. I used to walk around the house going, it's time to start school. It's time to start school. Nobody would come. Come on, guys, it's time to start school. Nobody would come. It would get louder and louder until finally you can imagine that what was happening was I was yelling at my children, you know, come on, it's time to start school. Get in here now. I know none of you ever do that. But it was not a very good way to start our homeschool day. So we started doing something different. We started using a song to start our homeschool day. This was the biggest game changer in our homeschool. So I have a song that I have chosen that for us, it's a praise and worship song that we sing at church. You could do any kind of song. It could be a song from church. It could be a song that your kids would hear on the radio, an upbeat, a happy song. And we have an Alexa device from Amazon. I use that to play my song. Before I had it, I would use my phone to play it, and I had a little speaker that it would play on. You could even sing your song if you wanted to. But when my kids hear that song, they know they have from the time that song begins until the time that song finishes to get anything they need, to gather their materials, and to come to the table and be ready to start school. You know, if they need another snack, they need to get it. If they need to find their pants, they need to find it. If they need to put the Legos away, they need to do that. And it gives them a bit of a buffer, but I'm no longer the bad guy. I just start the song, and that's the warning that they need to get there. Now, if your kids, couple of things, I like to use a happy, upbeat song, and we kind of dance our way into our school day. Some moms have told me like that makes their kids way too excited and crazy to do that. So what you could do is play a slower or softer song. And then other moms have told me that one song is not enough for their children. So they'll put together a playlist of like 2 or 3 songs and have the last one be kind of quiet and relaxing. So it starts with a happy song. Their kids know they've got like 3 songs, and then it's going to be a nice quiet one, and they need to be at the school table and ready to get started. And if you are the one that it's hard to get you to the table in the morning because maybe you're busy washing the dishes or folding the laundry or distracted by other things, I'm not talking about Facebook, something like that, then if you can program your phone or your speaker to start playing the song at a specific time, then you have to be at the table. You have to be there. So that's something you can do to help get you on track as well. Okay. I have another bonus hack for you. And this one has to do with your cell phone or any timer. So this could be a kitchen timer. I used to have a little kitchen timer that I used, any kind of cell phone or timer. You can use that to keep your kids from dawdling in your homeschool. So I don't know about you guys, but I have a couple of master dawdlers. They will take a 15-minute assignment and it'll take them like a full hour to get it done. And it shouldn't, but it does. So what you can do is you can use your timer on your phone or use any timer that you have in the house. And you can say to your child, give me your best work. Give me your best work for the next 15 minutes. And then if you are not done, we will close the book and be finished. And then you hold them to it. You make sure that they're giving you their best work. But when the 15 minutes is up, even if they're not done, you close the book and you're done for the day. So what this does is a couple of things. First of all, it builds a great deal of trust between you and the child. And then secondly, you're going to be looking at that assignment and you're going to give them more than enough time to get done with it. They're probably going to finish it way early. But it makes them focus and it makes them work. When you have a child who's staring down, like for us, it was always like math and multiple digit multiplication or long division. And they would be staring down this big full page of work and they would just get completely overwhelmed with all of this work. And so they would shut down and it would take forever. But when they know, all they have to do is do their best work for the next 15, 20, with older kids, you could even do 30 minutes. Then they can see the light at the end of the tunnel. They can see the stopping point and it makes them put their head down and get to work. Most of the time they can finish in well under the amount of time that you need, but it's just changing their mindset with that little timer hack. That's really helpful. So give it a try. I have found that it really works wonders. Okay. So in the business world, there is a concept that's called a minimum viable product. So what the minimum viable product is it is like the least product that you could actually sell to someone. And the reason that it was invented was because people are perfectionists. And so they would get all hung up in making the perfect thing before they sold it. And so then things were not getting made, stuff was not getting put out there. So as homeschoolers, we have this exact same product. A lot of times we want our days to go great. We want our days to go perfectly. And when some little thing comes up that throws us off balance and we can't be perfect, we just kind of throw in the towel and don't want to do anything. I don't know about you guys. I've had this problem in the past. And so something would come up in my morning, it would get my day off balance. It would be like 10 or 11 o'clock. And I would say, there's just no use in even getting started today. We're not going to be able to get everything done. We're not going to get finished. And I had this huge consistency problem until I came up with this next trick. So this trick is called the minimum viable day. So what you do with the minimum viable day is you write down the least amount of school that you can do and still feel really good about having gotten school done. So you take your list of 15 or 20 things that you would do in a day because you have 3, 4, 5 kids, right? So you're not just doing 5 subjects, you're multiplying that by all of those children. So you got 15, 20 things that you're doing in a day, and you narrow it down and you say, if we can only get these 4 things done, I'm going to feel really good about having done school. Or if not really good, then I'm going to feel like I've accomplished something, okay? And the reason we do this is because it helps us build consistency in our homeschool. And consistency is so important in our homeschool. If you have children who are pushing back at you constantly about not wanting to do school, look at and be honest with yourself. Have you been consistent with your homeschooling? Because a lot of times if you have children who are pushing you back, there's probably a consistency issue there. Not all the time, but that's what I've found a lot of times in my homeschool. So trust is built with consistency, and your kids are going to trust that you're going to show up and be ready to do school, and they're going to come to expect it, and they're going to stop pushing back. You're going to learn to trust yourself. We're going to get this done every day. And at the end of the month, you're going to look back on a month full of doing school, and you're going to feel really good about yourself. And it's going to give you the confidence to say, I can do this. So making an MVD is not that hard. You just list out a few subjects. So last year for us, ours was math. I had one child who was still doing reading lessons. So it was really important to me that he practice his reading daily. And then co-op. My kids were in a co-op and they had like a science class and literature class. So they had to have their book read. They had to have their science chapter read and be ready to go into their co-op class and take part and participate in class. I'm gonna be honest with you, if my kids show up without their homework done, I look bad. So it was really important to me that they be ready to participate in class and those teachers not be upset that they weren't ready. And then music practice. So those 4 things were our MVD: math, reading, and co-op for the different age children, and then music practice. If that's all we got done in a day, I could feel good about having done school. So your MVD is going to be different than mine though. So you need to start this, pray and examine your conscience. Think about what's going to make me feel like I've really accomplished something. And then list out the bare minimum of what you feel good about calling a school day. And then maybe even take a couple more things off the list when you're done. And know that this is going to change with the seasons. Like even the season of your school year, it could change. And there could, maybe there's, if you're playing outside a lot at certain times a year, your NVD might be smaller because you want to let those kids get outside and play. But if you have a season of year where it's really cold or really hot, like at my house right now, it's over 100 degrees every day. We're not going outside. So we're doing more school right now than we will be doing in October or November. And so, you can change it with the seasons of the year. And then also, it's going to be different for your younger kids than it is for your high schooler. But write this down, and on those days when you're not sure you feel like doing school, or on those days when the toddler wakes up and needs to go to the doctor, or your mom or dad calls and they need to go to the doctor, or maybe grandpa breaks a hip and you've got to go over and make lunch for him every day for 6 weeks and help take care of him. If you can just get this done, then you can feel really good about having done school, and it builds that consistency. The kids know what to expect. You get less pushback, and your whole year just goes smoother. This is a wonderful tool that you can use. So we have no control over a bad day, but we have lots of control over what normal is. And that's what we're going for with the NVD. What does normal look like in our homeschool? What's our bare minimum? And then you can add to it from there. Okay, this is probably my favorite one. So I've talked about some of my problems with starting school, that we have a hard time getting started. I've had issues with procrastinating the start of my school day. The kids would dig their heels in. Nobody wanted to get started doing school. And there was a reason for that. It was because we were trying to start doing school with math. So we learned to start our days with delight. That was how we needed to start our school day. So Mark Twain has a saying that says, eat a live frog in the morning, and nothing worse will happen to you for the rest of the day. And this is like a big deal. There have been actually entire books written about this concept, that if you are trying to be really productive with your day, you should eat your frog first. But homeschooling is not about productivity. Homeschooling is about relationships, the relationships that we have with our kids. So I am here to say that you should never start your homeschool day with math. Unless you love math, unless math is absolutely your favorite thing. But math is not my favorite subject, and math is not my children's favorite subject. So it really doesn't make any sense why we would sit down and try to do math first. It's not going to be something that makes us want to get started with our school day. So what we started doing instead was we took all the delightful things in our school day, all the things that we really loved and enjoyed doing, and we put those first. And then we really, really wanted to get started every day. We looked forward to it. It was something that we loved, and it became much easier. And this is what I call a morning basket. So we take all the beautiful things, all the wonderful things that we enjoy doing. This is my basket. I actually put it in a basket. You don't have to have a basket. You could have a shelf. You could have a plastic bin. You could have a box, any kind of thing. I do think it helps to keep everything together, because when you do, then you're not looking for things when it's time to get started. But take those subjects that you enjoy doing, any kind of subject. For our family, we do some prayer, we do some Bible reading, we do our catechism. If you have older kids, you might do apologetics. We also do the beautiful things like picture study, music appreciation, nature journaling. We memorize things. We read poetry together. If you have older kids, you might do a little Plutarch or Shakespeare. We've even done grammar and foreign language in our morning basket. This year, we're doing literature and history in morning basket as well, because my kids are very close together in age. And so I'm able to, they don't have to go off separately to do it. I'm able to bring them together and let them do it all together. And so it's a really efficient use of our time. So there's so many things that you could put in a morning basket and start with the things that you enjoy. And it just makes you want to get together and do your school together so much more. So now that my kids are older, we don't start this really early in the morning. Actually, we start our morning basket about 9:30 every morning. Now the two boys get up earlier, and so I will do some other stuff with them first before we start our morning basket. They get to choose what it is they want to do from their list, and we will do some of those things first. I make my daughter wake up at 9 because, hello, you know, you should be waking up by 9 o'clock. And we typically start our basket by about 9:30. And, you know, make it fit your family. Your family might start earlier. Your family could even start later. You could do some subjects with some children first and then begin, but make it work for you. We light a candle at the beginning of ours. And then we say a little prayer, and then we have our time of learning. And then at the end, we blow out the candle and we sing a hymn, and we're ready to begin our school day. And so it's just a wonderful way for us to get started. And it's so funny because my son, I have some books that I ship here from the house. Here, I can show you. I have this little book. This is one of the ones that we ship here from the house. So my son is in my office with me this morning, and he's helping me pack up some of the books. And I have my homeschool planning book, and I have this Better Together book. And my son says to me, so Mom, your one book is about homeschooling and your other book is about morning time. So for him, homeschooling and morning time are not the same thing, right? It's not even, let me see if I can get in, stop sharing. So it's not even the same thing to him. He enjoys the morning time. He doesn't even think of it as school, but he's learning so much during that time because there are so many different subjects that we're covering. So that is it. That is what we've got. You can find me online at pambarnhill.com, and I am happy to answer any questions that you have. Z?
Thank you so much, Pam. Thank you. Yes, Pam has said so much already. So much. She talked about procedure list. She talked about having a vision. She talked about getting a song to start at homeschool. That one got me because really, I think that will be fun. A lot of fun for my children if you start out with a song, you know. So I love that so much. She also talked about getting a procedure. It helps a lot when you have a procedure, so you have something to think about. We are waiting for questions, please. Any questions? So you have something you can easily fall back to. And okay, so Pam, someone is saying thank you for the song idea. Olufumike saying thank you. At what age? Okay, we have one question here. At what age do you absolutely have to stop homeschooling your kids, Pam?
Oh, so like here, where in the US, is that what we're after? Or just period?
No, I mean, for anyone, at what time do you stop homeschooling your kids?
Is
there a time? Is there a time you stop?
Okay, so here in the US, they usually go until they're 18 and they're a senior in high school, and then we can graduate them and send them off to college if they want to go to college or trade school, or they can go into a career or something else. I will probably never stop teaching. They'll probably come to the house still, I'll still be doing that. So, yeah, but I mean, when they're ready, I think when they're ready to go off and, I'm not, for us, we're bound legally to homeschool for so long to finish a certain program. And so, but when they're ready to go and they have the maturity and the skills that they need, you're educating for virtue always. So.
Yeah. Awesome. You have another question. Somebody wants to know, what is your procedure list for history?
Okay, so ours this year is very simple because we are reading history aloud in our morning time. And so I keep a whiteboard close by with a pen. I have like a little small one that I can hold in my lap and write on. So before we read the chapter, I look through the chapter, and so we're doing ancient history right now with Augustus Caesar's world, so like the Romans. And so I write the names on the whiteboard, and then I read the chapter to my kids, and then they can look at the names on the whiteboard and they narrate orally back to me. So they just give me an oral narration. And if you're interested in narration, I have a podcast on my website where I interviewed Sonia Schaefer. I think it was number 10. Let me see if I can pull up a window and find it. But narration is a really great tool that you can use to have your kids interact with the material that was being read and tell it back to you. It's kind of a Charlotte Mason tool. Let me see if I can find that, because she really explains really well how to do it. Yep, here it is. I'm going to drop this link in the. Okay. And so they narrate back to me. And if they can't do it right then, they either come and find me later in the day, or my kids each have, they don't have phones, but they have a little device, like a little iPod or something, and they'll actually record their narration for me on the iPod and send it to me. And so sometimes I listen to it later in the day. And the great thing about that is I can listen to it faster, like on 2 or 3 times the speed. And so it goes a little bit faster. So that's what we're doing for history this year. And that's really it, is just reading and narrating for that. So.
Okay. All right. I don't think we have any other questions.
Oh, I've seen a few more come up.
Yes. Okay. No, that's not a question. It's a comment. Someone says, thanks, Pam. I'm definitely stealing the iPod idea. Me too. Yeah, it sounds great. Really, it's having something else for the children to narrate, and you can just listen to it. You don't have to be present with them for them to narrate. I think I like that idea a lot too. Okay, so thank you so much, Pam. We are so grateful. And I think we'll be calling it today. I don't know if, so we have many comments, people saying thank you. Do you bother? Okay, sorry, you have a question. Do you bother to give 5 to 6 history and science lessons, or just focus on the basic?
So I think we're talking about 5 and 6-year-olds, like little kids.
Okay, so, yes, I think.
Yeah. So what I would do with, I would focus on the basics, and then I would read. Like just read everything. Read stories, read animal books, read hero stories and history stories, read folk tales. Just read like all the stories that are important in your culture. All of that is perfect for 5 and 6-year-olds. So you don't have to call it history or science, but you just read about the world around you. Yeah, constantly. And so that's really what your 5 and 6-year-old needs. And that's the perfect kind of stuff to hit in morning time. So,
okay. So you have so many people saying thank you. They're going off to your website to go and get some more. and people enjoyed your session. So thank you very much. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me. Your whole conference schedule looks great. And your live event last year, Z sent me pictures and it just looked like such a wonderful event. So I'm glad you guys are getting to do something virtually this year. So that's awesome.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you.
So calling it, yes.
All right. Bye-bye, guys.
All
Thanks
right.
for having me. You guys
Bye.
have a good year.
Bye.
Bye-bye.